My name is Glenn Dieter. I am professor of religion at Sarah Lawrence College. I am currently a Guggenheim Fellow, and I'm a past NEH Senior Scholar at the Center for Jewish History. My main project as an NEH Senior Scholar was working with a collection of thousands of petitions to a non-Hasidic miracle worker by the name of Rabbi Eliyahu Gutmacher. These petitions reflected practically every facet of daily life for Jews in 19th century Eastern Europe, and really brought me into the complexities of a modernizing society that at the same time was holding fast to a lot of traditions. What I found so incredibly interesting about the Guttmacher collection of petitions was the contrary to the picture of modernity as this inexorable urbanization, industrialization, modern medicine. It really showed me that modernity was a messy process in which workaday Jews, they would consult a doctor when they got sick, but they would also consult a miracle worker like Eliyahu Gutma. They were experiencing economic modernization sometimes, and they would contemplate moving to the big city and even going sometimes into secular studies, study for the professions. But most of the time, they're just trying to get by in their tavern. The interesting thing about the tavern keepers was that historians had told us, based on statistics, based on legal stipulations, that Jews no longer were the primary tavern keepers in Eastern Europe, that they'd been pushed out of the tavern or liquor trade. And yet I'm seeing hundreds of petitions by Jewish tavern keepers. And so it really exposed for me the myths that historians create based on abstract, incomplete data, or simply wishful thinking, that we want to see modernity as this totalizing process. And in reality, people hang on to their old ways of doing things, to their old beliefs and traditions, but also to their old economic, their economic mainstays. And so there's this immense underground Jewish liquor trade that was going on. It was hiding in plain sight in these petitions. My current project has to do with Hasidism in the 20th century, mainly in interwar Poland and during the Holocaust. I've been looking at materials in archives all across Poland, and I've been coming back to the YIVO archives as well. One of the most important collections in the YIVO archives is the YIVO autobiography collection, which was a contest where the Jewish youth were invited to submit their memoirs, autobiographies, and self-narratives. And I've been most interested in Hasidic youth. Perhaps the most interesting discovery was a huge 418-page diary written mainly during World War I by a Hasidic tavern keeper's daughter named Eula Wald. Eula refers to herself constantly as a Hasid, or a Hasidic woman, and yet she's reading Polish novels and poetry. She's discussing literature with the Polish gentleman who patronized the tavern, and she's fallen in love with her Hasidic cousin. It's a match that the parents don't approve of, and she eventually gets her heart broken and winds up being matched with another Hasidic young man who happens to be a lawyer as well. But it's interesting because her parents actually do give her a lot of leeway in deciding on the match. They don't just impose a match on her. And so once again, I'm confronted with the messiness of modernity, because here is a young Hasidic woman very strong-willed, very well educated, especially in secular literature and other forms of knowledge, and yet is really devoted to the Jewish tradition, to the Hasidic tradition. And even though she's denied her romantic interest, she stays within the community and tries to make it work. And I think this was probably the case of a lot of young people who didn't want to cut ties with their parents and with their communities, but wanted to find a way to negotiate modernity in a way where they wouldn't have to sacrifice the traditions, but also they could begin to get the most out of the modern life that was happening all around them.